Thanks a lot for the invitation to this very rich webinar. Actually, I'm very glad that we're covering most of the disciplines and we're seeing this the concept of maritime activities from a multidisciplinary background. As Vera said, I'm an environmental economist, and I've been working on a few projects that dealt with the marine ecosystems. And the main question that I'm trying to answer is a bit different from all of what you're talking about, is what are the economic values of the sea, and is it worth to protect marine ecosystems? So I'll talk about few projects, just giving quick statements or descriptions about them. These projects were done in Lebanon, and they fall into this framework of marine ecosystems that are relevant to this panel. So the first one will be is a project called Governance and Knowledge Generation, SocioEconomic and Evaluation of Marine Activities. And this is a project that is part of a regional project. It was launched by Plan Bleu, and the study aim was to evaluate or provide a socioeconomic evaluation of the maritime activities in the Mediterranean region. The work builds on the development and application of economic assessments for four countries, really: Tunisia, Morocco, Lebanon, and Egypt. And after the national reports were out, we have developed a regional level assessment for the four countries together. So we can, you're controlling the slide? Okay. So this is a project funded by Jeff, as I said, $3 million US. The duration was 2012 to 2015. And the main objectives were to investigate the socioeconomic dimension of the marine sectors and to contribute to the integration of these socioeconomic issues and the decisions to ensure the sustainable development of the Mediterranean and its economic sectors. Please. Okay. If we just have a look on this diagram, it shows you the vision. The vision, we want a healthy Mediterranean with marine and coastal ecosystems that are productive and biologically diverse for the benefit of the present and future generations. So we're looking at the ecosystem functions, whether provisioning, regulation, or cultural. We're looking at the services provided by ecosystems, and the use, what are the benefits that are provided for the well-being, whether being fishing, tourism, and others. And we're trying to make sure that these ecosystem services are conserved. So we want to make money out of it, but it has to be conserved. Next, please. Vera? Okay. So as I said, two complementary assessments, a regional and national assessment for four countries. And what was good about this project is that we could contribute to the development of a methodological background that can be applied for capturing the socioeconomic dimensions of marine activities. In other countries, if this study could be developed to further Mediterranean or other countries. And the method we have used was based on the model that we call the DPSIR, drivers, pressures, state, impact, and response framework that was developed under the Ecosystem Goods and Services framework. Next, Vera. Okay. If we look at this diagram, we see the two components of the study. The first one, so this is GPSIR. So the drivers are the ecosystem activities, which is in orange. Then these ecosystem activities develop pressures make pressures on the state of the marine ecosystem. And the marine ecosystem provides ecosystem services that have impact on human well-being. So that we have economic activities in green. And the response factor is in the bottom, which is how to manage these activities to prevent the degradation of the environment. So this is the main framework. So the two components are first the socioeconomic assessment of maritime activities, which you see in on the slide before, what's in the box at the right. And the second component is to assess now the cost of degradation. Next slide. Okay, here you see at the bottom of the slide the cost of degradation, and we looked at them from two different perspectives. The first is to what are the total costs and measures of action that are put in place to prevent the degradation of the marine ecosystem, and then what are the costs of mitigating the negative impact of existing degradation. So next. Okay. In this project and in the 4 countries that we have studied, we looked into 7 socioeconomic activities. So these are the sectors we have covered: fishing and marine aquaculture, marine transportation, cruising and pleasure boating, energy production, extraction of marine aggregates like sand, salt, or others, offshore oil and gas industry, and the submarine telecommunication and electric cables. Next. Okay, so why the study? As I said, the study is to provide a socioeconomic argument to improve the state of the marine ecosystem. So all what you've been talking about, like we need to preserve endangered species, biodiversity, archaeological sites, protected areas. So all of these are important, but I mean, the policymakers won't go into this just to conserve. We need to make sure that we provide that socioeconomic argument. And this is not an easy task, because you need to define changes in the environmental status of the ecosystem, and how would you do this? And you need to clearly understand the linkages between the environmental status and the economic activity. Next. Okay, so the basic questions we have raised in the study: is the sea important for the socioeconomic development of the Mediterranean region? You know, we're about to having a big, actually we are having big conflict over the Mediterranean, and we're seeing this currently. So it is important. Is it worth to protect the sea? How to assess the changes in the economic activities when the environmental status changes? So when we have degradation, environmental degradation. And then the most difficult part is how you can put a monetary value on the services provided by the marine ecosystem. And these services do not have a real market. So we're just doing an economic valuation for something that's not in the market. Next. Okay, the main results of the studies were the 2 components. Again, the results of the socioeconomic importance. So we talked about all the 7 sectors. And the second was to illustrate the cost of degradation, like what is the welfare gone, reflecting the reduction in the value of ecosystem services. And the cost of the degradation is very important because it helps making informed and efficient choices to promote conservation based on a common denominator, which is monetizing the environmental damage and the remedial intervention. For example, if we take the loss of revenues for fishermen following a reduction in the fish below sustainable levels, so the fishermen now are losing. So this is a cost of degradation. The loss of jobs and activities in the tourism sector due to polluted beaches. Like, for example, you cannot go to the beaches, and therefore the tourism sector will lose, we'll have unemployment, we'll have activities that are forgone. So cost of littering, we have big issues, for example, in Lebanon, pollution and all these waste open dump sites, and I don't know if they are landfills. And the cost of health problems because of water quality. So people go to the beach, they swallow water, they have gastrointestinal diseases, dermatological issues, and all of this is a cost that has to be considered. Next. Vera? Okay. The second project I'll introduce was the Palm Islands Nature Reserve. It was an economic assessment. As Ms. Lara Smeha has talked last time about protected areas, actually this was one of the first protected areas that was established in Lebanon. Next. And I think at that time it was the only marine ecosystem. Now there is Chile. And the aim was to identify and assess the economic and financial contribution of the Palm Islands to the North region and Lebanon. Specifically, we were looking at what are the benefits that can be generated, what is the value of the economic and financial benefits, how to value them. So we identify them, we value them, we assess the contribution of this to the local community, and we estimate the willingness to pay. And this is a common jargon in economics. So what's the willingness to pay of visitors to preserve and protect that area? Because it was open. Fishermen used to use dynamite just to throw dynamite to have to catch more fish. So they were killing species. So are they willing to protect it? Excuse me?
They are still using dynamites.
Yeah, I know, but this is how you implement now the policy. Next. So what we've done in the study, and this is where I really want to stress, because I know they are still using this, or I know that the beaches are still polluted, and I know we have Thompson, but the issue is I'm coming from academia now, so what we're working on is the methodological aspect. Now, how they will, this is a political issue, and the laws need to be enforced. So what we've done is to identify all the stakeholders of the protected areas, whether the potential visitors, the local businesses, the hotels in the region, the fishermen, and identify the different services, which are very similar to the 7 sectors I talked about in the first project, which are recreation tourism, ecological processes, biodiversity conservation, education research, consumption benefit and non-consumptive benefits, and the future options. We designed a questionnaire. The sample was about 250, and we tried to calculate the total economic value for the protected area by different techniques, just to make sure that there is a match, which we used at that time the travel cost method and the contingent valuation method. And then we use the cost-benefit analysis to determine the economic feasibility of the conservation. So is it worth really to protect the nature reserve? Next. Another project that comes into this framework is the issue of waste. Here I'm not talking about the technical aspects of waste, rather I'm talking about what would drive individual behavior or decision makers when we have a collective action. It's a common dilemma. It's common to everybody, because if one pollutes, everyone will be worse off. Next. And I think this was an interesting work, because for the first time, what we've done is we brought together 2 models. If we read the literature on environmental behavior or decision making, all the literature talks mainly about the social aspect. So it's the model you see in red. like the personal values, the world views, how do people view the world in terms of ecological paradigm, the risk perceptions, do they view the problem, do they have the risk, feel the risk, and how, to what extent they feel responsible, and their norms, the environmental norms. So here we brought this framework, and we add to it, we combine the framework in blue, which is the Commons framework, which was developed by Elinor Ostrom, who has got a Nobel Prize in the issue of regulating commons dilemma. So we know that it's not about the individual, it's a public good, it's a common resource. So we have introduced three main variables here: reputation, how do I view the other person, does he have the reputation? And you know, in Lebanon we all agree on this. So the reciprocity norm, why should I be doing this if my neighbor will not do this? Like, and the main variable we were studying was recycling at the source. Like, would people be willing to do the separation of waste at the source to reduce the dumping? So the reciprocity norm, and the third main variable was the trust. And the trust here was developed into three levels, and that was actually, before we did the study, it was we looked at it as if you as an independent variable that will vary. It's a variable, but then we discovered that in the trust issue in Lebanon, it wasn't even a variable, because statistically it was proven now that 97 to 99%, it depends on which issues we're looking in the trust, people do not trust the government to enforce the policies and the laws. People do not trust their neighbors to sort or to do this environmental behavior, even if they tell them about it, that they will do, because you know there is this free riding principle. And they do not trust the contractors, because they just tell you, yeah, we will do it, but then even if we do the sorting, the waste will end up in the same place. So the trust issue wasn't a variable, it was like something constant. It was obvious that everyone doesn't believe into this. Next. Okay. So main results, we asked people, 700 people, to choose between one or two projects. First, to separate food at home, or if not, they will not separate, then to pay additional fees for the municipality or somebody to do the separation. And some people refuse both, but actually the results weren't bad, because 70% choose to do the separation at home. So people would do it, but they need other factors to be controlled. And their willingness to pay for those who will not do the sorting, what about at the 6.92? At that time it was like 10,000 Lebanese lira, which everyone was willing to pay, with the maximum willingness to pay $20 per month. And most of them were perceiving the health and environmental threats to the local communities, so they wanted to mobilize people to become more concerned. And most interviewees suggest that the local communities are aware of the factors associated with the problem, and they're ready to cooperate if the process is truthful and there is public participation in making this. Next. I think I'm taking much time. The last three projects, and I will go very briefly here. These were three different projects, and they were done under the Erasmus Plus European Union funded project. The first was called RUCAS, which stands for Reorient University Curricula to Address Sustainability. Next. So what we've done is, next, Sarah, okay. what we've done here is that it was about 12 universities from Europe, including Italy, France, Greece, uh, Ireland, and from the Arab region, including universities from Jordan, Lebanon, and Egypt. And the main objectives were to develop capacity building to train the university staff, professors, and the administrators that there is a need for interdisciplinary collaboration. So like what we're seeing here, we are now doing this interdisciplinary collaboration, which is very important. And I'm telling you from my experience, this didn't exist. We were really not doing it. So we tried to mobilize this, especially at the university level and among different institutions. And then we wanted to integrate this RUCAS into, or the sustainability issues in the different disciplines. So this was the first project. The second project was called CLIMAS. CLIMAS was climate change and sustainability policy. Now we have trained the university staff. We improved the collaboration, interdisciplinary collaboration. So we moved to another project where we wanted to look into the climate change and sustainability policy and within all the academic disciplines like applied sciences, in natural sciences, technical sciences like engineering, economics and business, social, political. And we developed a master's program, and students who are enrolled into this program would take a Euro-Arab certificate, and they can do exchange and mobility with other universities in Europe. Next. The last project I'll talk about is climate change, sustainable agriculture and food security, which aim to develop an interdisciplinary master program in climate change, sustainable agriculture and food security. Also, if you look into the core courses that I have provided in the table, so there are core courses, elective courses, and we worked on the different syllabi, where they were reviewed by experts, so we could develop the program. We can see that there is, for example, if you look into the courses, you have sustainable fisheries and food security, social entrepreneurship. So we have students even coming from sciences should understand the business aspect or the economic and financial benefits. And students who are coming from economics, and these people never heard of what's biodiversity. You would be amazed to go see students at the university level that they don't understand the word biodiversity. So it was really a challenge to get to have a, if you want, a common background, to start from having people bring idea together in order to look into the concept from its different views. So what I try to do now is to work on the different methodology, because this is what's important to change the behavior and decisions of future generation. And I'm done. Thank you.